currently live.
Yeah, we are. I think we're currently live. How's it going?
It's going great. Another
Excellent.
beautiful day in San Diego.
So today we have with us, and I'm making sure that we're airing this on the right Facebook page, but today we have with us John Ford. John Ford's an American hero. He's the man. He is a Navy veteran. He is a owner of a really awesome dog I'm a big fan of. He grows the best beard in all of Lifesaver, in my opinion. And
we should have a contest because
you would win. You would probably
I'd be happy to get another trophy. That'd be cool.
Yeah, John Ford was the Rookie of the Year for 2016, yeah. 2016. Yeah, for the of all of the new Lifesaver dealers that started in 2016, John was the best one. So that was really cool. So as a Lifesaver pool fence owner in San Diego, he goes in people's backyards. He assesses their pool safety situation. He gives them the best recommendation on how they can safeguard their pool and make their pool safer for their children, based upon their family, their needs, the layout of their backyard. He does all of this every single day, and he also installs and sells Lifesaver pool fencing and different pool safety products, pool alarms. He refers swimming lessons, and he's just anything related to pool safety is within John's wheelhouse. And he's got an awesome backstory that I'm going to get that hopefully he can get into. And that's it. Did I miss anything?
Yeah. Oh no, that's you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Every day. every day I'm out there. Yeah.
I mean that's not for off, right?
Oh yeah, no, I actually really enjoy it. It's something that I didn't even know was an option when I was thinking about what I wanted to do. I was really happy that a family friend kind of was involved with you guys for the last decade and got me into this. And I really have been, every day it gets better and better though too. So it's not like, oh, every day. It's like every day, sunny San Diego, I get to be in people's backyards. I go everywhere from La Jolla to El Cajon and North and South County, and I get to see different parts of San Diego that, I'm not a San Diego native, so I'm always enjoying exploring different areas, different beaches that you can try and scavenge your way down to and try and find one that's not overrun. But it's always fun going out there, and it's very rewarding, especially when the fence is up. And I see these little kids just going up and just bouncing on the fence, trying to get through there. And I'm like, yeah. Good job, me. Because it's very rewarding to also have the parents go, oh my gosh, the peace of mind I have just standing back here after having the fence up for half an hour. You can see this whole wave of relaxation, especially with grandparents or someone who just occasionally watches the kid, the child, who's not used to the high energy and stress of having a toddler or a young child running around, and then with the danger of the swimming pool. It's really nice to be able to put a fence in for people who really appreciate it.
Nice. So I always like to ask people first, every superhero has a superhero origin story. So I always like to ask, your origin story. If you were a superhero, which you are kind of, what is your origin story? Where did you come from? What was the path that led you to your, current superhero status?
So, how far do you want me to go back?
All the way to the beginning.
All the way. So, I came out screaming and crying. And so I was born in Northern California in San Jose, not so little of a town, but it's just South Bay, about 40 minutes south of San Francisco.
Okay.
And we lived in a little house in Aptos, which is like right on the sea cliffs, until I was about a year and a half old. And that was about the longest we had stayed anywhere until I had turned 18 and started doing my own thing. So
why did you move around a lot?
Well, it wasn't like military really background. My dad was in the army during way back in Vietnam
Mine too.
era. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
Uh, Salute to that.
yeah.
Um,
So, but I'm quite a bit older than you. So how your dad must have had you rather late, huh?
yeah, so I'm 26. My dad's 75.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
impressive. So that means he was 50. Is that right?
yeah, yeah,
Wow,
or 49 or 51.
wow.
One of those.
Is he still around?
Yeah, yeah, he's still
That's
doing pretty good. Unfortunately, he had a stroke about a year and a half ago,
mhm.
but he's doing really, really well. It wasn't a major stroke. My mom was able to get him to the hospital fast enough to get this emergency shot. So
Right.
that really helped out. So he has a little bit of balance issues, but that's about it. So that's really a blessing.
So how old is your
So
mom?
she is now 63.
Wow.
Oh man, putting me on the spot here,
Yeah. So I
Eric.
mean, but so both your parents had you really kind of late. I mean, was this their first? Are you the only child?
First and only and best.
And best.
Yeah.
And was this both their first marriage? Were they did they have prior marriages?
It's my mom's first marriage, my dad's
12th.
second marriage or
Okay.
third. I don't know.
Okay.
I never met the two first
Right.
wives, so
Yeah. Like wow, it's rare to hear people starting a family at that wise age. So I'm in a kind of a similar boat, and I thought my parents started
yeah,
late. My mom was 37 when she had me, and my dad was like 34. Um, and they were always really grateful that they had kids later in life because they thought they were a little bit smarter, wiser, a little more, don't sweat the small stuff. That they were just better people because they were, 37 and not 25, right? Not that there's anything wrong with having kids at 25, but in
oh,
in their in,
definitely,
their- in their particular case, they were partiers back in their 20s, so they were glad that they kind of got that out of the system and waited to have kids, and your parents
yeah.
waited even longer, which is super impressive.
Yeah, I think I really benefited from that. My parents, like you said, just collective wisdom over the, almost collectively 100 years of experience they had
Right. Yeah,
before I was born.
that's insane.
The better part of a century.
That's crazy.
So
So anyways, yeah, so
I give them a hard time about it all the time, but they were very calm, relaxed. Part of the reason we moved around so much, though, to answer your question, was uh, my dad was in the high tech industry doing
okay.
wireless network bridges, which I think is like Wi-Fi. I'm not
Okay.
really sure.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was doing that right during the dot-com bomb time frame. So just going from different small startup tech companies to different startup tech companies meant that we moved around all over California. Actually went to three different high schools throughout my high school career. And
Wow.
one of them was actually just pretty right down close to here, El Toro High School in Lake Forest, and
Okay.
then Aliso Niguel in Aliso Niguel. That might just be the name of the city. I don't really
Okay.
remember the name of the high school. But yeah, so it was cool kind of having that eclectic experience growing up, not only having my parents be calm and relatively wise, but also moving around and getting to meet literally hundreds, if not thousands of people before, I struck out into the world for myself. And after I tried a myriad of retail jobs in the food service industry and pretty much just landed on, I think I'm going to join the Navy and, see the world, they say.
Right. Before you get to that, Stephanie Marie Robertson, who's a swim instructor, she says hi. I wanted to say hi back. She says hi to Eric and John, both of us.
Hello.
Which I think you can see that in a little mini screen. See the little the window there. See her? Yeah,
Yes.
there she is. Kind of cool. All right. So then you joined the Navy, which my uncle, I have two uncles that are one was in the Navy, and I think the other one still is. And one actually just liked our post, which is kind of funny. His name is Damon, my uncle Damon Lupton, and he was in the
Awesome.
Navy. And his brother, my other uncle, is a Master Chief, as is his wife. So I always thought, coming from a family who's kind of really heavy into the Navy, and my grandfather was in the Navy as well. He served in World War II, and actually, served in Japan on a naval ship, off the coast of Japan, right around the time of the bombing. So, like I said, I have Navy kind of in my bones. So I appreciated your Navy story. So you joined the Navy to see the world, as my dad often used to say when they suckered him into the Army.
Yeah. Exactly. So I joined the Navy to see the world, and that is what happened. I did see the world. So
Cool.
like no complaints there, I guess, as promised, or delivered as promised. One of the things that I really enjoyed about that was seeing different countries that I would, never travel to on my own time.
Like what?
Like we went to the Philippines, we went to Kuwait, we went to Dubai, and we stopped by a little part of Africa on our way back home. It was like places I would never go to, but seeing different countries and just the structure of it, and you can see like Western influences in different countries. They're like the touristy areas, but for the most part, it's totally different everywhere else. It's way more different than, you can't just watch a YouTube video or like read a book about it and go, oh yeah, I kind of know how that is.
Right.
It's one of those things that you have to be immersed in it before you're like, wow, California is amazing. I just don't want to, now I kind of want to stay on the West Coast indefinitely, or pretty much just the West Coast, because there's this, we would get like briefings. I'm sure this didn't help with my opinion or my predisposal to this, but we'd get like briefings on, okay, so you're allowed to go within 5 miles of the ship. You have to have 2 people with you at all times. You can't, do this. You can't do that. This is dangerous. And if you aren't back to the ship by this time, we're leaving because this area is dangerous. So good luck. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was a little bit. That was a little bit of a eye-opening experience, especially with all these different experiences I was getting on the ship, and just as an engineer on the ship, I was getting a whole new skill set I didn't even consider. So that was a really cool experience.
So that's what you did. You were an engineer.
Yeah. So I had signed up under the advanced electronics computer field. That was kind of just like, so if anyone's watching and thinking about joining the armed forces, this is some unsolicited advice for people. If you take the ASVAB and you qualify like pretty good, I'm not going to throw any numbers out there, but I'll just say I qualified relatively where I could do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Don't go for the most difficult thing there is. Go with what you think would be the most fun, because you're going to be there for 4 years. You might as well be having some fun. Even if it's a little bit more dangerous than you might want to do, go have fun, because otherwise you're going to get just over encumbered with things that are just, like I said, advanced electronics computer field. I think you probably know how long it took me to get this video working on my cell phone. Right. I am not a computer guy, So,
but you're doing it on your phone, which I think is the first time we've done it on a phone. Someone asked if we could, so I'm glad that you have kind of broken the barrier now that we know that it's possible on a phone. So thank you for that.
Always happy to break the barrier with those things. Yeah. So, I had signed up for that, and I did not want to. After going to school for like a year for that, I was, long story short, by the time I got to the fleet, I was an undesignated fireman, which means I could strike for pretty much any rate I wanted to. But in the meantime, I was assigned to whatever division needed hands. So that was the engineman down in like the engine room. So taking engines apart and putting them, like engines with pistons that are the size of my chest. Like, It was kind of like and the whole thing's the size of a school bus. They've got a turbocharger on it the size of like a Camry engine. It's insane. So that was interesting and enjoyable because I was kind of mechanically inclined before. But then I had to strike as an electrician, so I spent the last year or so as an electrician, and there was also a good stretch of time when I first got to my ship where I got assigned to repair division, which was just bits and pieces of things all over the ship I got to work with. So that was really cool. And also very handy for getting a little jack of all trades expert in a little bit of everything. So, but mainly this is the most valuable, again, unsolicited advice for anyone thinking of joining the service. The most valuable experience you'll get from the military is the ability and proper etiquette for just dealing with anyone you want to talk to. There's especially boot camp is such an extreme example, but you're basically sharing a room with 100 dudes, or I think they have like co-ed boot camp divisions now, but they split them up at the end of the day. But anyways, dealing with like 100 different personalities, 100 different ways of dealing with the same problem. You have to be able to communicate yourself eloquently in order to get through that for 2 months and then 4 years after that. So it's a really good experience that I would recommend to many people who want to see the world.
So real quick before we move on, what was your favorite country?
My favorite country was Hawaii.
Okay. That makes sense.
Obviously a joke. Yes, I know that's a state, but that was my favorite port for sure.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a country, though, I would say the little part of Africa we went to, which doesn't represent Africa as a whole. I think the country was called Dukum. Maybe it was like a city-state. I'm not sure. It was basically kind of like in a dark hole in the ship for a month or 2 months at a time, and then we'd come out at a port like, oh, where are we? Who cares? Like, where's the ocean? Like, well, it's right here, but you don't want to swim next to the ship. So you just kind of see the town,
Right.
Like more interested in just going out there and having experiences than.
It's funny you say Hawaii the country and you say it's a joke, but I went to Hawaii. I've been in Hawaii twice, and the second time I went to Maui, and the girl I went with was really concerned about not having her passport ready in time because she thought she needed her passport to go with me to Hawaii. And I'm not with her anymore. So yeah, there you go. That might be why. Yeah, that might be part of the reason is she thought Hawaii was another country. Perfect. By the way, Heather Allison is another swim instructor, and she says hello as well. That's really cool.
Hello.
So how did you transition from protecting our country in the Navy to protecting children in swimming pools?
Well, that is a great question. So,
and by the way, how do you like that segue? By the way, because I was kind of impressed with that just now.
Oh yeah, no, I awkwardly work my way through that segue all the time on estimate, and I think you did very, very good job at it. Thank you. Better than I do on estimate.
You can use that. I don't mind.
Yeah. So I'm usually like, if I'm not wearing my like NWU pants, which can go both ways. So those are the old style, and the whole Navy switched over to green camo now, which like thanks a lot. You got the cool uniform after I got out. When my wife was in, we were wearing the blue pajamas the whole time, like the camouflage blue, which I never understood the logic behind, because it's like, oh, if you fall in the ocean, we'll never find you. Great. So,
and that's important to note. Both you and your wife were both in the Navy, right?
Yeah, that's actually where we met. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, and that was probably the most valuable thing that I got from the Navy was.
I like you say probably, like don't let her hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not standing right there scowling at me at all.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's just you and I talking, and no one can see this, so we're safe.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good call. So you transitioned from protecting America to protecting babies.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting transition because we had both gotten out like at the same time. So it was we really had an open schedule. We had like nothing really planned. We were both thinking about, hey, do you want to go back to school? On the GI Bill? Do you want to kind of just travel for a little while? Do you want to stay in San Diego? Do you want to go up to Northern California? We're both transplants from Northern California. And we ended up going up to the South Bay area, so relatively Northern California. No one ever wants to say Central California, but it is Central California. That is what it is. So Central California, and stayed with Mark Hinkle, Lifesaver of Northern California. And while we were there, we were doing some training with him, and he said, "Hey, do you want to start a franchise down in San Diego?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, I do. It sounds amazing. I always wanted to own my own business. I thought it was a really noble cause."
And let's be clear. It's not a franchise. He got the nomenclature wrong, but that's fine.
Is really?
Yeah. No, you don't have a franchise. You don't pay franchise fees. You're a dealer. You own your own business that has.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll have to change that across the board then.
Yeah. By the way, Heather Allison, who I was wrong, is not an ISR instructor. She's just a water safety ambassador. Said she lived in San Diego for 10 years.
Awesome. Well, I hope to see her around. I'll actually be at an IPSA chapter meeting tomorrow at Admiral Baker Field. I think it starts at 1 or 2 p.m. Allison, you're more than welcome. You're to be invited.
So her name is Heather. Food. Actually, she's awesome because she has 2 first names. Her name is Heather N. Allison. I think her first name is actually Heather. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, Heather Allison, come on out to Admiral Baker Field tomorrow. I'd be happy to talk to you about safety and free food. So not provided by me, the good people of IPSA.
Heather, do you still live in San Diego? Let's see what she says. Anyways, so while she's responding about living in San Diego, did you? So you met up with Mark Hinkle, who has been a lifesaver of Northern California for a very, very long time, and he's been doing it successfully, and he's got employees, and he's protected hundreds, if not thousands, of pools. By the way, Heather lives in North Carolina now, so she probably will not make your IPSA meeting.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Heather.
Somebody will. That's all right.
Yeah.
But so you grew up with his son, right? You're really good friends with his son.
Yeah, I've seen Mark doing the pool fence, being involved with pool fence since I was in literally 4th grade. Wow. So that was kind of a cool experience because I never really took too much of an interest to like all this strange stuff floating around his garage.
Right.
Until I got out of the Navy, and he was saying, "Hey, do you want to open your own business?" And I said, "Heck yes," because I think I mentioned before that's something I always wanted to do. And then also a very stark contrast to the Navy experience or any military experience, having the command structure of at least 17 people directly above you, and all of them have their opinions on how you should be doing your job, to being your own boss, captain of your own ship. It's very rewarding in every way, So I spent about 2 months training with Mark, and just doing fences every single day. Just the estimate process with Logan, as well as the installation process with Logan, Derek, Eric, his crew of people that he's got going. And I owe a lot of the successes I have, and that shiny trophy you guys gave me, to Mark's really, and your really good mentorship. That first year really helped me get going. Even though I had no idea what I was doing or an inkling of what I was getting myself into, I still felt like I did, a relatively good job at getting out there and keeping kids safe. So that's the goal. So that's the mission accomplished there.
And let's talk a little bit. And I know it's okay to talk about this because there was an article about it in the local San Diego news. But let's talk a little bit about the arc your life took during your journey of being, the lifesaver in San Diego. You came out of the Navy, and you had some difficulties making the transition maybe immediately, and you started Lifesaver of San Diego up. And like any new business, you know, required investment and time and energy. And if I get this right, you were literally homeless at one point, right?
Oh yeah. So when we had started, when we came after we did training with Mark, training slash couch surfing, which worked really well, very cohesive.
Right.
We had sunk pretty much everything we had, and also Mark helped us out with a small loan to get some tools. He also loaned me some other tools and to get a van, and we came back down to San Diego with a storage unit and a mattress in the back of the van. And so we would like try and do estimates during the day, get people scheduled, get all the paperwork filled out and on the calendar, and then just find it. Oh, and we kept 24-hour gym memberships because what a great deal for homeless people. You know, $30 a month. You can use the bathroom anytime you want. And you can take a shower anytime you want. It's very, if anyone interested in being homeless, also 24-hour fitness. Got to throw that unsolicited advice out there too. But yeah, it was actually kind of cool not having any. I mean, it looks way better in hindsight and during the actual experience, it's a little bit stressful. You know, getting chased off of properties or having the cops called on you for literally no reason. It's just illegal to be homeless, which I have my own opinions on. But anyways.
Right.
We were staying in the back of the van and then wake up in the morning, do estimates. And we were only staying in the back of the van for like, I think around 3 months or something. It was so long ago now.
And I mean, we hear this narrative all the time of people, you know, leaving the military, and both you and your wife were in the Navy. And, you know, to think that after serving our country, you end up, you know, homeless is, I mean, that's terrible. You know, there's no other way to put that. You know, and obviously you were trying to start your business and everything, but you know, at the same time, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it does suck. There are a lot of programs out there that will help people transition. You know, they actually have a whole week-long class about helping people transition. More death by PowerPoint before they finally get their claws out of you. But,
but I mean, 1 week after a 4-year-long experience isn't really, you know, maybe that's not enough. I don't know. It might be, but, you know.
Well, I mean, it definitely had its own valuable lesson. Being in the back of the van and starting the business definitely creates a drive and motivation way better than a little bit of caffeine Starbucks in the morning. So that kind of mindset of, you know, this is the only choice. You know, you kind of success is the only option. I mean, I'm not going to start doing an Eminem monologue right now, but
one chance.
Yeah. What
opportunity?
Yeah. Now I can't remember it, but you know. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So you were homeless. You were in the back of the van. You were, you know, going out to people's homes. You were giving them pool safety evaluations. You were installing pool fences for them to make their homes safer for pools. And you know, what did you like about pool safety in general?
Just like the freedom of doing my own installs and like the satisfaction of having extremely happy customers at the end of the day. Or even better yet, the customers who absolutely loathe the idea of putting a fence in their backyard. They're like, oh, this is going to be so ugly. You know, all I can do is smile because I hear that literally every week now. This is going to be so ugly. And then I direct those customers towards something that's going to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, like the copper vein or the smooth pole black or smooth pole brown, or copper vein poles with black on black border and mesh. Looks fantastic. Looks totally different than any other pool fence out there, especially with the arched gate, the double truss upright system on the gate. It's something that stands out in the yard as a benefit or something that adds to the value or aesthetic value of their yard at the end. I've had people literally almost like in tears. They were like, oh, I was so worried about this, but it looks so good. I was like, surprised, but also happy for them that it ended up so good, and I was
Right.
happy to facilitate that as well. So,
Uh, so yeah, I mean, I guess that is a common misconception that a fence around your pool is going to be ugly, but a mesh pool fence is different than like a wrought iron prison around their pool. Like you said, there's different color combinations. It's transparent,
yeah.
and and it's in you can talk about this probably more than I can, but it's designed to keep children out of the pool.
Yeah, every single aspect of the fence. I mean, at the top and the bottom of the fence, where we have the 4 rows of stitching,
Mhm.
which is nice to have those 4, because if you lose one, you still got 3 more. If you lose 2, you still got 2
Right.
more, and that's why we have that lifetime warranty. But as well as when you pull on that border material, if you were a child, even if you were a little Army Ranger child and could do a straight pull up, it just yields to your pulling on it. There really isn't any good handhold for a child to grab on. As well as, I hear a lot of the time people are concerned, well, if it's so easily removable, then how do I know my kids aren't going to be able to do this? And one of the key features of the fence is that it's a tension-based system. So that means when you have a 15-foot long section that ends and another one begins, you have a double post and then a safety snap latch. You have to have not only the enough manual or strength and dexterity to pull those poles together from the top, but you need to keep them from rolling, as well as using your other hand to unclasp the latch. And really, all of that's impossible unless your shoulder is at least 3.5 feet off the deck.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that even like a I would say around 10 to 13 would be when I would start to worry, but then we have the perma latches. So if swimming is still an issue, I mean, you can just attach the perma latches and then everything's whambo bambo, good to go. Also, a key in the magna latch on the gate is another great feature. There's a lot of peace of mind that goes into the, or a lot of little details go into this to create the peace of mind at the end, including one of the most impressive things one of the things that my customers seem to be most impressed with. One of the smallest features we put on the fence, and that's a little slide that sits on the bottom of the gate hinge. It's like a 20-cent piece of plastic, but when the right application and getting attached the right way, it just really it's the last thing that a child would be able to use to try and scale the fence is that hinge, because that's a good foothold, and then not anymore because we put a slide on there and attach it with a screw. So it's really just things. And like, this is one of the, kind of a side note here, one of the things I really appreciate about Lifesaver, because I had no idea when I said yeah to Mark that I would love to open up my own business down here. Turns out Lifesaver is the best pool fence business out there. I had no idea. I'm sure you had an idea. I had no idea when I started this business. So I was really stoked about that, especially when I go out on repair jobs or go see other fences that I didn't install. And it's really a stark comparison compared to like our standard operating procedure that Emily and I do just when we go do an install. So I really, I know it's a small thing, the little gate slide on the hinge, but that attention to detail oriented towards safety is really special. It's not something that it's something that if I was getting a fence installed in my backyard, it's what I would expect, but it's not necessarily the standard.
Absolutely. And it's little attention to details to show that there's a lot of thought put into it, that we're really trying to solve any problem that could come forward. So besides a pool fence, which is obviously important to you and one of the main things you recommend, what other pool safety things can people do to make their pool safer?
So it's all about safety is like an onion, Eric. I don't know
Like
if
an
you've
onion.
heard this before.
Not, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't usually hear it called like an onion, but go on.
Well, it's got many layers.
Okay.
So you want to, I mean, a pool fence is, well, we'll get back to pool fences, but mainly the first things that you could do, just super fast, super easy, would be to put alarms on any door that opens to the backyard. You
Okay.
can add a splash alarm to the pool. There's also the safety turtle wristwatch that you can attach to your child so that if it gets wet, puts an alarm off at a base station as well. I would say, I mean, don't do what my parents did. My parents just put a leash on me. They were just, yeah.
An actual leash?
Yeah, like the chest harness. Every time I mean, not for a pool per se, but I would often find myself in like in a department store wearing a leash. And then I would like go under a coat rack and tie it to the coat rack and then bounce. And you could probably tell why I ended up with a leash in the first place. So
I actually think the leashes are a good idea a lot of times, but that's just me.
Yeah, maybe at like Disneyland or something, I could totally see that.
I mean, that's a great example. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
other
yeah, I would say, oh, sorry, I was going to get back to just the layers of protection, the alarms on doors and windows, door locks that are at least, 50 or 60, 60 inches off of the deck so that a child can't reach them. Just like little push pins or dowels that go into the top of like sliding glass doors or any door with a handle as well. But those are all layers. But for me, what seems like the most effective layer is a pool fence because it isolates the pool from the rest of the yard. It keeps the children just out of that area completely. It's not something that if you have music on, you're not going to hear the alarm or something like that. Or if the alarm batteries go out, some of them plug in. And there's lots of different things out there, but the key feature is to have as many layers of protection that you need in order to feel comfortable in your yard, in your house, with your children running around.
Yeah, I mean, I always break it down into what I call 5.5 layers of protection. So parent supervision being the first one, like you said, which unfortunately, as we all know, human beings are fallible, right? None of us are perfect. It's impossible to watch a toddler all of the time. In fact, the parents that terrify me the most are the ones that say, no, I'm good. I always watch my child. Those parents scare the bejesus out of me because that's not realistic, right? Nobody watches their child all the time. And every parent who has a hilarious story about their kid, covering the wall in crayon, who doesn't have layers of protection in place, just got lucky they didn't go into the pool instead. Parent supervision is, the main one. Then locks on all the doors and windows, alarms on the doors and windows lead to the pool, then a pool safety fence, then alarms in the pool or the safety turtle, like you said, that's more on the child. Then swimming lessons, the child knowing how to rescue himself if he falls in. And then the 5.5, the last kind of half layer of protection is CPR because, that's not preventing an accident, but, if you have kids, you need to know CPR. That's a absolute,
I think that's a really fantastic one. I think you probably know I had a chance to go out and see one of the ISR instructors do her thing.
Yeah, talk about that.
And go through the classes. Yeah. It was really a great experience. I mean, I had no idea that you could take literally an infant, barely old enough to express themselves with any kind of words. I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive here, but throw them in a pool and then watch them get to a rescue position within seconds in a way that they can alert an adult that they're in the pool. Also, eventually, I think it's within like 6 to 8 lessons, they can get to the rescue position where they can alert an adult that they're in the pool by just yelling and screaming, but also kicking their way to the edge and then grabbing a hold of the edge so that they could, if they can't get rescued immediately, they can at least be safe until an adult does eventually get out there. And that is, I mean, I don't have any children yet, but I got to say, that was a hard thing to watch. I mean, having all of these children and then all of the parents for the children sitting, 30 feet away, sweating bullets while their kids scream and cry bloody murder for doing the hardest thing that they ever had to do in their lives up to that point, which is trying to, I got a voicemail, sorry. That's one reason not to do this on your phone.
Right.
But Yeah, it was a really, really difficult thing to watch. I mean, they weren't even my kids, and I was like, oh my God, like this, someone get that kid out of this pool. Like, you know, so, but it was really, the kids who had been doing this for a few weeks, it was really inspiring to see them get to their back, get to a safe position, get to the edge of the pool, even after having, being like turned or rolled, just, they're good to go. It was really impressive. I had no idea. Some of my first memories are learning how to swim, but it was nothing like that. That was pretty amazing.
And honestly, I would rather have a kid, you know, cry for a few 10-minute lessons and learn the skills, you know, he or she needs to save herself in the event that she ever fell in the water, than, you know, go through life without this experience and then be in trouble, you know, if something ever happened to her. So, you know, I don't mind seeing kids cry a little bit, you know, if that means that they're safer for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's I totally agree. And
did you see them, any kids go in the water fully dressed?
Sorry, one more time?
Did you see any kids fall into the water during those lessons where they were fully dressed with their shoes on and their clothes and their shirt and the whole nine?
So not at that lesson, but I have seen that before, where that's because that's a whole different layer or a whole new different challenge, you know,
right?
Being completely dressed and falling into the water.
Yeah, because most kids who drown are thought to be inside the house, which means that they're in their regular clothes. So, you know, ISR in its wisdom, you know, teaches kids how to save themselves with their clothes on, with shoes on, you know, with a shirt on, with a diaper on, with, you know, pants on. You know, someone explained it to me recently that they want the first time that a child falls in the pool and flips over and floats with their clothes on to be with an instructor, not, you know, in a pool in a dangerous situation. Which I like the sound of that, you know, that they're, you know, they get practice doing it with an instructor before, you know, the chance of them doing it on their own and actually saving themselves. So, yeah, I like that they take it all the way to, you know, fully dressed, because it really addresses the real situation and not just, you know, pays lip service to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's one of the best layers of protection out there. But supervision, like you hit on before, is really a good one. I don't know. I repeat this on estimates often, but one of the houses we were renting when I was growing up had a pool. And one of the games that, you know, I and my friends thought would be fantastic and just all good fun would be to run across the blue bubble mat as fast as possible, and whoever gets the furthest wins. No prize, they just win. What do they win? They get to live. Yay. But obviously a very dangerous thing, and you never know what kids are going to do while you're not around. And I probably one of the worst examples of that right here with two thumbs. And so when I go on estimates for, you mentioned kind of tailor fitting fences to match every customer's needs. If there's three little boys in the same house, I always recommend our solid core fence every single time. I'm like, this is going to be what you're going to want, because it not only has a lifetime warranty, so eventually when one of these guys breaks a pole, I'll come out here and replace it for you. But also, it's the strongest fence on the market. It doesn't actually break. It just kind of yields to bending at a certain point, and then you can bend it back.
So, I mean, since pool fence is your thing, if someone was going to buy a fence, what features, what, you know, qualities in the fence should they look for so they know they're getting the right kind of fence?
So a lot of people have a situation, especially if they're only having one child, where they may have waited, or they just moved into a house that had a pool, and they're only going to need a pool fence for like maybe a year and a half or 2 years, or however long, you know, until they can get their child swim safe. And in those situations, I often recommend going with our X-Pole product, because it's less per foot cost, and oftentimes especially if they just bought a new home, there are 100 different projects they're trying to tackle at the same time. They all cost way more than they thought they did. And if I can try and keep it to a lower budget for them on the installation for a pool fence, they're really satisfied with that, and I'm really happy to, meet and exceed their expectations. And like I said before, oftentimes if there's three little boys in one house, or if it's a house that is like the kind of hangout house on the block for the neighborhood, or especially there was a few backyard swim schools that we've done. I recommend going with our Lifesaver pole because it has a lifetime warranty from you guys for manufacturer defects, as well as a lifetime warranty from us here in San Diego. Because when I install one of these fences, it's basically like leaving a gigantic business card in people's backyards, and I don't ever want that to even look kind of funny. So what I tell my customers is that, if you have any problem at all, give me a call, shoot me a picture message. I can go over it with just a picture message alone. I could either talk through what's going on with the fence, or just add that to my next estimate day, which is usually within 48 hours anyways, and just stop by for a few minutes just to take care of it. I'd way rather take care of it when it's a small problem and just charge nothing than have something that could eventually, be more intensive, labor intensive for me anyways. So
Yeah, I mean, that all makes perfect sense. And I liked what you said about the lifetime warranty. So if a lifetime warranty is one thing people should look out for, what's another specific feature that someone in the market for a pool fence should make sure that they have in their pool fence, like a must-have component to a fence that you think is important?
So if it's a fence that's going to be staying up for a while, I would say you must have a gate, because if you just use a setback pole, it's a better than good chance that eventually you take the pole out and then you just get busy and get a phone call or something and forget to put the pole back into place. And for anyone not familiar with a setback pole, essentially it takes the place of a self-closing, self-latching gate, but not as effectively, because it is a manual opening and closing system. Two poles next to each other, you take one out, you set it back in another hole, setback pole. So, and then when you want to close the fence back up, put it back in the original place, reattach the latch, and you're good to go. But if it's something that you're going to be leaving up for a really long time, parents who are getting a fence for their first child, their second child isn't walking yet, and they're already planning on having another child, that fence is going to be up for a really long time. I always recommend going with one of our self-closing, self-latching gates in that case. And of the gates, I 9 times out of 10 recommend our arch gate, because it looks fantastic. It breaks up the fence, and you can see where the gate is even from 40 feet away, as well as, I really like the copper vein fence. I like it's shiny. What are you gonna say? It's really nice. So, and then it's a copper vein arched gate. It's just like, wow, especially compared to like a square stock square gate that's black, high gloss black, and not powder coated. Yeah.
If somebody is getting quotes for a pool fence from different companies, what questions should they ask the person coming out of their home?
That is a fantastic question, and I'm going to take just a quick sip of coffee here as we answer that. So, kind of distracting, but anyway. Also, I'm leaning forward because I am doing this on my phone. So
right, the volume, I gotcha.
For some reason, the volume just cut to a third of what it was when we started. So
okay,
I might just hang out right here the whole time.
You're fine.
The questions you should ask when you're getting estimates for a pool fence.
Right.
Your first question probably shouldn't be, what's the per foot cost of this fence? Because it's not just about the price per foot of the fence. Your question should be, what is the warranty on the fence? What does that cover? And tell me about the installation process, because doing the border sections, rebordering the fence, it doesn't sound like a big step. Again, just to explain the terms here, rebordering a fence is when you cut a short section and you
you have to take the pole off, you cut the mesh where you need it to go, you reattach the border material, and then put the pole back into place. By reattaching the border material, you're splitting the load of anything that's affecting that pole across the entire length of the border, of the mesh and border, as opposed to just, you know, splitting the load across a couple of screws that are screwed into the textiline mesh. So you lose, like, I don't know, something like 80% of the strength of that section if you don't reborder the mesh. And it's probably the step that I see cut corners on the most whenever I go do repair jobs. We did a repair job a few days ago where we had to do reorder 9 sections. It's kind of insane. I was pretty. The reason we had to reborder it too is because you could literally just grab the fence and rip it off the pole because it didn't have the border on there. So you have to ask, you know, do you reborder the cut sections? When you go into dirt, do you use a metal sleeve instead of a PVC sleeve? Just trying to make sure that the quality of the install is going to be something you'd be happy with 6 months from now, let alone 10 years from now.
And what questions should they ask about the product?
About the product, so where is it manufactured should be first and foremost. Ideally, it should be manufactured in Delray Beach, Florida, right? So, but definitely making sure it's manufactured in the United States is a huge quality control thing that you can just figure out while you're on the estimate site. Just, hey, where does it get manufactured? How large are the holes are ones that I often get as another really good question, because there's 2 main different sizes of holes out there. There's 1 1/8 inches and there's 5/8 inch. If you're just looking at it and eyeballing it, though, you would 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And so on the 1/2 inch hole, those normally been installed with a rotary hammer drill instead of a coring drill, which is a huge deterrent for me, because if I did it with a hammer drill, it'd be way faster. You know, I'd be done installing in like 1.5 hours because I just like zip, 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 zip. But it's extremely can be extremely damaging to the concrete, and it's also not liquid cooled, so it just creates a lot of dust, which in and of itself is a hazard. And when we use a coring drill, all of that kind of concrete slurry is really easy just to wash down into the drain system, or, you know, collect. So also the 1 inch diameter poles means that you have more options as far as what to do with the holes when you're done with the fence. So say if it's the grandparents who aren't going to have the fence up very often, you know, they take the fence down most of the time and just put it up when their grandchildren are over. Well, they have the option of dropping in a LED power or a solar recharged LED light that only fits in a 1 inch diameter pole. And especially if it goes all the way around the pool, which the fence often does, it looks very nice at night. It's not something that's really, it's not something that most people think of when they're thinking, you know, what am I going to do with this after I'm done with the fence? But every single one of my customers who have seen one of those LED lights goes, wow, that's a great idea. You know, so I really try and recommend those to customers who are only going to have the fence up temporarily, especially, but also if they're worried about the aesthetics of the fence or having the holes in the future. And that's another thing. If you're worried about having the holes in your deck, don't go with the 5/8 inch, because first of all, you're going to have way more of them in the deck because you only have 12-foot sections. So that means you're going to have more double posts or even tighter spacing, which means more holes. But also, the quality of the hole counts. So like, you know, rotary impact hammer drill, you're going to have, you know, 67 really jacked up looking holes in your concrete when you're done. Or you could have 60, even though it's not a huge difference, but 60 extremely well-cut cored holes in the deck where you still have the negative that you pull out of the deck. So you could use that to color match the concrete if you wanted to patch with concrete. You could also dropping the LED solar lights, but you're not going to have like cracked or chunky kind of concrete around the hole. It's going to be extremely clean.
Yeah, I mean, the name core drill is actually kind of a it's a name that can throw somebody off, because what it really does is the core drill cuts the hole in the concrete. It slices through the deck, so you get this really clean hole, not like a hammer drill that's chipping away at the concrete. So it's an entirely different experience, I think, kind of like you described.
Yeah.
And that negative you talked about is actually the inside the core, the tube that gets cut out of the deck. It comes out intact, like it's one long, 1 4-inch cylinder that my dad used to bring home with him when I was a kid and bring to me when he started Lifesaver in 1987, and he was doing jobs in the late 80s, early 90s. I used to think the core was really cool, so he would bring them home for me when I was a kid. Like if he did a cool deck with Chattahoochee or marble or some cool surface. I had this like core collection in my room because I was a nerd, and I thought they were cool. But yeah, I have good memories of those cores. But so I mean, it's already noon here, which means it's 9 a.m. for you. Thank you very much. So what kind of water safety advice would you leave parents with as we wrap this up here?
So water safety advice is, first and foremost, if you're a parent of a younger child, a very young child, ISR lessons, you CPR certified if you aren't already, and also think about what layers of protection that you would think are appropriate for your house, but as many as possible. Can't you go over on the layers? Have 1 or 2 extra layers. You don't want to go, oh man, if I just had that 1 extra layer, I could have avoided at best a trip to the emergency room. So it's really
and the new law in California right now, where you're at, actually requires 2 layers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a great law. The law in California right now, it's brand new. It just passed, and it is by far the best pool safety law in the country. And the reason it's such a good law is because it utilizes the concept of layers of protection, which every pool safety expert in the country thinks is a good idea, including the federal government's Consumer Product Safety Commission. They recommend layers of protection. They sometimes call it simple steps. Simple steps save lives. So, the whole industry, nonprofit, for-profit, etc., all recommend layers of protection. And the law in California is the first law in the country to take that idea and legislate it and make it into, law. So they give you like 7 options, or maybe 5 options. I think it's 7.
So
and then you have to pick 2 of them, which I think is fantastic. I wish, and I hope other states in the country will model their pool safety laws out of the one in California, because they've really done a terrific job. And I know Nadina Rigsby and Marcia Kerr and some other people that behind the scenes who are involved in getting that law made, did tremendous work in getting that passed. And I'm super excited that at least one state in the country has taken a step forward in the right direction with such a well thought out, intelligent law. But you're right. If 2 is the minimum, right? If 2 is what's required, 3, going 1 step beyond is probably a good idea.
Yeah, no one's saying you have to go with all 7.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, one of the reasons that law is so well thought out and legislated is because, unfortunately, just statistically, because there's so many people in California, like some of the other larger states, there are a lot of drownings, unfortunately, a lot of child drownings. I think last year was like 14 children drowned in California, and while being, I'm sure, supervised or under the supervision of an adult who is responsible for their well-being. And that's too many. That's one of the reasons I get up and do what I do, is to keep that from happening. So just every day, like you were saying at the beginning of our interview. So
Yeah, out there every day, and just real quick, both Nadina and Marcia, who were behind the scenes in creating that law, they both lost children to drowning. Marcia Kerr actually,
really unfortunate.
her and her husband were our first ever dealers, and they were in California. They were the first ever lifesaver pool fence dealer, and Marcia's gone on to work for the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and she's been a huge advocate for water safety for the past 30 years. And Nadina is the OG. She's the original pool safety advocate, and all the way back from the 70s, I believe. So
Wow.
This has been a great outcome for them. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I like your parting thought about the installing as many layers of protection as you can manage. And I think the last thing I want to leave on is if somebody has what is a misconception about pool fence that you think people have that you would like to clear up for the world at large here?
A misconception.
Yeah.
Other than thinking that it's going to be ugly when it's up.
It could
I
be
know
that.
we already talked about that.
Yeah.
That it's going to be way too expensive, I guess, is
Sure.
another good misconception I could address.
Right.
We, you, Lifesaver, have a fence and to match any budget that will do the job of keeping your child safe. Even the DIY product that you guys sell online is a effective barrier at keeping children away from the pool. And our X pole is a great product. The Y pole is a great product. The solid core, they're all really great products. And they're I would never say to someone, even if you have pennies to rub together, give me a call and we'll figure something out, because I would rather install the job, or I would rather get the job installed just so there's not another unfortunate statistic than having to worry about, oh, this is going to be the most expensive thing in my yard. It's not, even pool maintenance is more expensive than a pool fence,
Right.
if you were to add it up over the course of the year, it's not that expensive. So I would say don't let anything stop you from adding whatever layers you can for protection.
Perfect. That's awesome. Anything else you want to add?
Live long and prosper.
Beautiful.
I
I like that. I always wish I could do that. So where can people find you? If someone wants to get a hold of you, if there's somebody, so you cover the entire San Diego area, right?
Yeah. I will go pretty much all the way up to Temecula and just above Tijuana. And then pretty much as far east as I can go. I think I've gone halfway to Arizona before to do an install.
Oh, wow.
So, but if you want to get a hold of me, you can call me at 619-554-2002. That's a cell phone. You could text me there at the same number. You could also email me at j.ford@poolfence.com, as well as if you are social media savvy, hit me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Yelp, Bing,
All of it.
Snapchat. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't have a Snapchat yet, but I'm sure I'll get one here by the end of the week. But if Yelp is probably my favorite one, because you could write me a message on there. You can also see reviews and pictures. Facebook is very similar to that, but you can see my super amateur videos on there as well.
And your Lifesaver Pool Fence of San Diego in all those places, right?
Yes, Lifesaver Pool Fence of San Diego. Or
Awesome.
if you are just trying to find me online, you type in my phone number, it brings up everything, 619-554-2002.
Right. That's fantastic. Thank you, John.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure doing this interview with you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
No, that's it. You did fantastic. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome. Me too.
All
Well,
right,
I'll talk
man.
to you again soon, Eric.
All right. Thanks, John. Have a great one. So
you.
for everybody else, we are actually going to be, and maybe John, you should know this too. We are sticking to San Diego because he's just putting his ear right up to it. I love that. Here's what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm going to put the focus on me. Watch this, because I'm important. I have power. I can do this. On Monday, we are switching to we're staying in San Diego, and we're interviewing Mary Ann Downing, who is the pool safety mom, and I think John met her once. She is awesome, and she is one of the original, I believe, board members of the National Drowning Prevention Alliance. If not original, then she was on it for a long, long time. She is a tireless pool safety advocate, even though that none of her professional life is tied into water safety anymore. She still preaches water safety and teaches water safety and supports water safety all the time. She's on several boards. In fact, when she does the interview with us on Monday, she's going to be at a swimming lesson masterclass, and she's going to join us at 6 a.m. California time, 9 a.m. my time, and it's gonna be great. Mary Ann Downing is amazing. She's one of my favorite people, and she's also in San Diego, right down the street from John. So we're gonna keep it West Coast on Monday. So if you guys want to tune in, we will look forward to seeing you then. And that's it. This is the 8th episode. I think it's number 8, right? Sarah says it's number 8. It's got to be number 8 of the Child Safety Resource. Thank you all so much. We will see you on Monday. What? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I got one more thing to add.
Go for it. Tell me.
The left coast is the best coast.
The left coast is the best coast.
San Diego.
I love it. Perfect, man. You take it easy.
All right, talk to you later, Eric.
Bye.
Bye.